Friends, hello to everyone. I am glad to welcome you to my channel, and today we will talk about why Japanese women refuse to give birth, how Japanese women live and what responsibilities fall on their fragile shoulders, and what kind of cruel patriarchy is in this country. And also today you will learn about the tough criminal female group and about a Japanese woman who deceived a man for $1.5 million. Now in Japan there is an acute issue of reducing the birth rate of children. Japanese women refuse to give birth. In 2022, only 770,000 babies were born here, while the number of deaths amounted to 1,560,000 people. Statistics have been getting worse for 7 years in a row. Of course, one of the main reasons is the very high cost of living. There are no free childbirth. The average price for them is $3,500. And insurance, which covers 70% of the treatment, does not cover childbirth. The only exception can be a cesarean section. Add regular checkups during pregnancy, vitamins, etc. Of course, there is government support in the amount of $3,000 to $3,500, which is paid within 2 to 3 months after birth. Raising a child so as not to deny him anything, giving him a good education and so on, all this is very expensive. And, of course, the average cost of supporting one child before he graduates from university is $200,000 or more. Epidural anesthesia is not popular in Japan. It anesthetizes unbearable contractions, and only 8% of Japanese women use it. I was shocked by these statistics, because in Europe, for example, this anesthesia is very common, and it makes childbirth easier. But here, firstly, there are few specialists in this profile, since there is no demand. Secondly, let's not forget that Japan is a country of traditions, and here, from time immemorial, it has been believed that a woman will truly become a mother if she will fully experience the unbearable pain during childbirth. And thirdly, this is additionally paid, and it is not cheap. Another main reason for problems with the birth rate is the decrease in the number of marriages. In 2022, only 500,000 marriages took place. The Japanese simply do not want to start a family. The younger generation wants to live their own lives and not be burdened by family problems. Many locals believe that the main problem in Japan is gender inequality. For example, a woman is prohibited from occupying the imperial throne, even if she is the only heir of the emperor. In this case, the throne will pass to relatives along the male line, and the princess will lose the opportunity to remain a member of the imperial family if she marries a commoner. Japan, at first glance, is a very prosperous country for women and for life in general. There are toilets with rooms for feeding babies on almost every corner. There are separate women's subway cars here, and in principle, everywhere here is safe. Compared to Europeans, Japanese men are often more well-groomed and handsome, even sometimes somewhat feminine. They often dye their hair, pluck their eyebrows, use foundation to even out their skin tone, and dress very nicely and fashionably. They do not bother people on the streets, and they are not aggressive, but this is sometimes simply shocking to everyone how some of them treat women. The Civil Code of 1898 significantly limited the rights of women. In fact, at that time patriarchy was legalized. But in 1947 the Constitution stated that the rights of women and men are equal. However, as I said earlier, Japan is a country of traditions and customs, and many families nowadays live exactly according to those old patriarchal customs. When a girl is born into a family, parents understand that their main task is to raise an ideal wife, and when there is a question about choosing a university, parents first of all think about how their daughter can find a worthy husband, because the main thing for a girl is to get married successfully. A large number of Japanese women are preparing to serve their husbands all their lives. The attitude towards their son in the family is completely different. Parents often communicate more respectfully and attentively with the boy than with their daughter, because in this way the parents teach the girl that a man should be treated with special awe and respect, in order to in the future raise and cultivate those character qualities that are needed: obedience, humility, and service. Serving a man, their future husband. And parents do not raise a girl and a boy equally, not on equality, not because they love their son more than daughter, but because this is, in principle, what happened historically. To be submissive and hardworking. These two words can describe the life of a woman in a patriarchal Japanese family. In principle, no one expects more from her, neither her husband nor society. The only thing that is expected of a husband is that he fully provides for his wife and children. Usually in such families there are two ways of development of events: either the woman works extremely hard, performs all household duties, goes to work and receives a salary several times less than a man, because here still, in terms of work, men are valued more than women. They they know that a woman can quit at any time, go on maternity leave, move away. All this affects her salary. Or, after marriage, a woman completely quits work and devotes herself entirely to family, everyday life, housekeeping, caring for children. That is, the family and care of the home space falls entirely on the woman's shoulders. And to work or not to work, she chooses on her own. No one forces her to quit her job here. But if you work, be kind. After all, keep the house clean so that the food is always prepared, the children are well groomed and fed. I had such a situation in my life that I met to talk with a Japanese woman, and I suggested that she go to a cafe and have a drink, a cup of tea or coffee, to which she said, "Well, it's soon 6 in the evening and I have to be home in order to have time to prepare everything for my husband before then." I was not sufficiently aware of all Japanese traditions then, so I say, "Once, maybe is it still possible?" She replied, "How can I miss one time? I need everything to be perfectly clean, the table to be set. I will sit waiting for my husband, because I can't miss dinner with him." Then I was a little surprised, to be honest. Household chores are exclusively the responsibilities of women. A man comes home from work solely to rest. At home, a woman cannot give him even small tasks, for example, throwing out the garbage. No, these are also the responsibilities of women, and here I very often meet women on the streets. She's walking, she has a child hanging here in a carrier bag, she's carrying a bicycle, and there's another child there too. Plus, if she's without a bicycle, she's carrying these bags on herself. Men always walk around here, to be honest. They're at ease. As far as I see, no one will ever help here, even if the woman drags heavy bags. Of course, I cannot say that this happens in absolutely all Japanese families, but often the woman wakes up before the man to prepare him breakfast and bento lunch to work. She also has to prepare breakfast and lunch for the children, pack these lunch boxes. And also there the woman will wash everything. Many Japanese have different attitudes towards infidelity, but still often, if a woman is unfaithful, then it is such a big shame for the family, but very often they can turn a blind eye to male infidelity. The main thing, as the Japanese say, is that the man does not leave for another family, and so let him walk. That is, in principle, this suits them. Very often, after working in Japanese companies, it is customary to go to bars, have fun, and drink with the bosses. This contributes to a man's career growth. And in principle, it is not customary for a woman to call or write and ask where he is, because this is a man. If he wants, he himself will tell you where he was, what he did. And if he doesn't want to, then it is not customary to ask. Well, that's all. It is important to note that in recent decades, the status of women in Japanese society has begun to change, and if previously it was almost impossible for women to rise up the career ladder, now they are increasingly receiving promotions. A woman can even be appointed as a manager. All this is more difficult for women than for men, but it has nevertheless become more possible. Everything that I just talked about before does not mean that this is the way it is for all local residents. The younger generation is increasingly striving for family equality. I am especially pleased that you can see men and young fathers on the streets of Tokyo walking with their children. Some say that after all, their husbands help them with something in the house, they want to help their woman and save her from the fact that she simply dies at home, gets bogged down neck deep in these household responsibilities, which cannot but rejoice, because after all, Japan is changing. Rigid patriarchy has ceased to suit even some men, and women are now increasingly making enormous efforts to ensure that equality appears in all spheres of life. In fact, girls took the path of protest a long time ago. Did you know that in the 70s, female criminal gangs were operating here everywhere? They were called sukban, which translated means female boss. Such girls who were in this group wore ordinary school uniforms, and very often they were actually schoolgirls. Then, during this period in Japan, there was not yet a boom in the socialization of school uniforms. These were ordinary clothes and were worn by Japanese women who were in sukban. And if people met in the evening a large number of schoolgirls in one place, this in no way caused emotion, rather, they wanted to run away, including men. The attributes of sukban were brass knuckles, wooden swords, knives and other weapons that the girls hid under their skirts. These groups were formed precisely because women were humiliated in society and were not given the right to choose. Thus, these girls defended the rights of women in society. Young girls around them observed humiliation, cruel treatment of women and decided that they no longer wanted to live like that. Of course, however, at that time, not only in Japan, there were many male groups into which women were not accepted. And then young ambitious schoolgirls decided to create their own groups, which were in no way inferior to the male ones. In the 70s, in terms of their numbers, they were not inferior to the most famous Japanese mafia yakuza. Of course, not all women wanted to speak out so radically and take the side of the protests, but nevertheless, feminism gradually developed in Japan. With this video, I was in no way trying to say that all women in Japan are humiliated and that all men are tyrants. No, I was just talking about the realities that can still be found here and about those things that surprised me. By the way, women here are also different. On September 20th, 2023, a 25-year-old Japanese woman nicknamed Riri was arrested here, who was scamming the Japanese on the internet and thus was able to earn $1.5 million. As victims, Riri often chose lonely older Japanese people, whom she simply pressed for pity. She could write to them something like, "Oh, I don't have money to pay for utilities," or "I'm so hungry, I haven't eaten for 2 days, because I don't have money. If I had money, you and I could see each other more often, I would have to work less," and stuff like that. And men voluntarily transferred their money to her. You can't even name Riri a swindler, because men acted as sponsors of their own free will. They themselves gave her this money. She released her course called How to Effectively Receive Money from Sponsors and sold it on the internet. Can you imagine? So if you think that all Japanese women are such prudes, you are mistaken, but of course there are only a few people like Riri. And if you are interested in my opinion, then I believe that humiliation and infringement of rights should not be present in any society. But I am very afraid of the moment when feminism becomes too radical and women begin to crush men, since female energy is also quite strong. We, women, can both give a man some wings behind his back and humiliate him so that he simply hides in a corner, because a woman tends to cut her brain. I believe that there should be a golden meaning. I want those gentlemen who open the door and let you in not to die out. For me personally, it is very important to retain some kind of this girlish note in myself, to remain so kind, sweet, fluffy. I don't want to look in my eyes and the eyes of those around me as some kind of hardened woman who has been through. Still, I want to please my man with the fact that you are a girl, you are gentle, fragile, and I want to be under the protection of my husband, not a tyrant, of course, but precisely under the protection of my man. I want to tell him those things that every person wants to hear. You can do everything, you can handle it, I will help you with something, because that's where this line is. Yes, when a woman can say that you're not capable of anything, you're not achieving anything, you're not earning much. Of course, from such daily reproaches, men lose the desire to do anything. I believe that there should be some kind of harmony in everything. A man helps a woman with something to make her life easier, to make her feel good, and the woman, in turn, gives her warmth, a smile, and support. And yes, for such a man I want to cook the same breakfast, lunch, and dinner, when it all comes together harmoniously in a union. That's what I wish for you, each of you. I'm very interested in what you think about this. Please write to me in the comments. Subscribe to my channel, I will be waiting for you very much in my next videos. See you, thank you all for watching. I love everyone, hugs, bye bye.